Wisconsin, nature's wonderland. In all my dreams I see beautiful Wisconsin, glorious and grand. That's where I long to be. Silvery Lake and Rocky Dell hold me in their magic spell, and the pine-scented air is beyond compare. Beautiful Wisconsin, milk and honey land, your home, sweet home to me.
They should do that on old farmsteads. Just put up gravestone. Here lied the granary, and here was the barn, and here was the chicken. So we know what we're looking at. The build date on the, well, we call this deer shack or the Buckrub. So it's synonymous, both terms in our family. The deer shack, Buckrub, or the shack. We all know where you're going. It was a homestead that sat here. I do not know the years it was built. It's very, very old. There was, and they built on land that was just unfarmable. Because the farmland for this homestead was up there on a place we call the Steyer Flats. Steyer was a name of people that lived here, one of the last groups that we know of. And there's rock wall that goes all the way around the building, handmade. I believe right up there was the quarry where they quarried a lot of their stone, actually. And so if we kind of gaze over here, what we see is the remnants of a granary. So I believe they had pigs or chickens down below, and then there's a granary above. Yeah, so here you can see a hole there for animals to get in and out. Now, whether it was piglets, I've seen piglets come out of barn holes like that, but maybe it was chicken access too. But this was the old granary, and again, I remember standing in it, walking into it, and using it. And there is actually steps going up right there between the rock wall. You see how this handmade rock wall goes all the way around this set of the buildings here. And so coming back to the house, if we look at the house itself, kind of a T shape. The part we see in the background there with the giant crack that's opened up, the foundation has given away and it's falling that way. That we believe is the oldest part of the building by looking at the construction and so forth. It was probably a pretty square, and we can try and access it. And then they built to the right of that another section that's totally different construction and probably more modern. And then finally this section that comes out this way with the wood siding is the rendition of the primitive building. There was a porch on the right side under the overhang, and that kind of fell apart and took that out of there. And the modern stuff it doesn't look modern anymore because it's showing its wear and tear. We put this porch on the front here, and where that front door was just a window before. So anyways, welcome to my world here. It's this is what I've looked forward to all my growing up days, is to get down here to the shack. Now we do see some remnants of bow hunters have been here. They left some stuff, but in a week or so it'll transition into a family deer hunting camp. The old wood stove here, kind of covered up with things, but this is what we heat and cook on for gun deer season. And there's some parts I wish I could replace, but I'll keep my eye open for another one. But it functions, fully functions, and I've learned how to use it since I was a little boy and how to feed it. And it is, it's heated this place, burned a few people, smoked up a few people, but we rely on it, and we get the home cooked meals off it. And then the table set up right in the middle here with all the chairs around it. We've had as many as 14, 15 people in here at a time. And this is where fortunes are won or lost on a Friday night. And some people leave smiling, and some heavily disappointed in the card games. Card games have changed over the years a little bit, but it's all with fun. I don't know if I can see it over here. We used to write down the big pots because we played in between. Oh, there it is. We play in between. I don't know if you ever played that. November 18th, 1988, $233.15 was the pot. high stakes in between, that is. This is the old entrance door, and I put a shower in there for guys to clean up. They don't really use it now. My hopes is to remove that and restore that porch area into another room, because this area is becoming very, very dilapidated. We have this natural lighting that flows through the room so naturally here. And you also get good ventilation. This wall is ready to fall. We'll see if we get one more year out of it. And we've been saying that for at least 10 years. And it hasn't killed anybody yet. I think this is where the great apple fight occurred right here. It started in this area. And there was, maybe it was potatoes, but there was things flying around here in the dark, and people fell victim to the strikes, and there's a lot of laughter and goofing around, of course, going on. Well, this used to be Lenny's bed.
Okay.
But he hasn't come and slept down here. Rick has always slept here, but he slept up at the house last year. Rick is, I don't know how old.
90.
But he's going to be 90, or if he isn't already. So he can sleep up in the warm house, and Kevin usually sits up right in this area with a cot, and Zach, and then it depends all who comes. There's Mason and Gary and Scott, and just a number of people. So I never know who's all coming always, but let's see if we can get this old door to unlock. Nothing wants to, oops, work is nice. And if you peek around both the corners, you can see how the foundation has given way. All hollowed out. All that beautiful stonework. And on this side too, the window is just suspended here. Here you can see the thickness of the walls of this door jamb. That's how thick those stone walls are. Now there's my arm, so... This door jamb is not as thick, and this has become a catch-all. This has become a catch-all of stuff. It's in pretty rough shape, but you can see the old construction. And there's a
squirrel.
And then we have a sleeping area upstairs that you can fit people in. Plaster issues here. I have to try to do a little repair. Yeah, I found a bunch of old beds that they were tearing down they're tearing down an apartment building, and on the old bedding, so we can spread beds out here and sleep 5-6 people up here. So yeah, 1962, and I'm not sure what time of year it would have been, because my dad drove up here. Well, he had seen this place for sale I want to say it was Milwaukee Journal or whatever, because they were living back in the suburbs near Milwaukee. And he kept seeing this place for sale for like over a year. And he finally got his brother-in-law to come up with him. I'm trying to think who it was, which one it was. I might have to ask Lynn or Rick. And they looked at the place, and then they supposedly slept in the car at night in the driveway. And the story was they woke up in the middle of the night and there was a big buck standing there looking at them. So, and I don't know if that's, I'd have to figure out when they did that. If that was because we moved here. Well, I wasn't born. My folks with 5 kids moved here in June of 1962. So you wouldn't see a big buck standing there before that because they really wouldn't have that big of a horns. But who knows? So when you're dealing with hunters and fishermen, sometimes you got to sift truth from facts, and they intertwine.
Yeah. Very early Pellylantrip was, we was living in Goldendale, and Mike and I was there. And I was working, I think, 3rd shift. And Mike wanted to come up here and look at this farm. And he
They want to take the family to the country.
No, he just wanted to look himself. And I says, well, when I get off the shift, we can go. And boy,
What year was this?
I kind of, probably in 58 or 59.
Oh,
62 is when they moved here.
62 is when they moved here. Right?
Don't get to it.
So anyhow, we took off driving, and we was going to stop in Sparta. That's where Freddie was working with the USDA. And we got there, I think, around midnight. He got off his shift. And then, it was all 2 lanes. Highway 16, and there was no freeway. And we got up here, probably 10 o'clock in the morning, and drove in the yard here, and there wasn't too much we could see. So we went over to Semblings and asked them if they knew where the boundaries was and how big the farm was and the whole bit, and they were very cooperative. And old man Summary says, yeah, right up here is the fence line, and if you go up over this hill, you can follow it all the way. Well, knowing Mike, he wanted to, and I wasn't in too good a shape, but I tagged along. And hey, you're gonna be a freaking billy goat to go off to the back assembly and down off the top of the mountain. And we walked the whole borders and looked it all over, and at that time, they was high priced. I think they were asking $6,400 for 240 acres. It was listed with a realtor, and the realtor was going to be expiring in about 2 weeks. So we're hanging on to it a while. We'll make an offer after it expires. So Mike did make an offer on it, and the woman, Miss, I don't know, what was her name now? I forgot.
Ewing?
Was it Ewing? Well, anyhow, she accepted the offer.
Do you remember how much it was?
I
Did you
think
guys
about
know?
6,000.
It was like $6,000 for 260 acres.
Yeah. And Mike didn't have the money either. So I think Freddie put up 2,000.
Alright, that's a lot of money.
Wow.
Oh yeah, but he was working for USDA, and he was making good money. Bob got him the job, and he didn't have to stay in one place. He was wherever they needed an inspector to fill in. So anyhow, Freddie put up money, and they closed the deal and bought it. And Marlene and I was going to get married in May, and you guys moved up here, I think,
June of '62.
June was, okay, it must have been a year before us then.
Did you guys start hunting right away in 62, 63 then?
No, I went hunting with up to Ricky's, the family.
Yeah, we hunted up there 2 or 3 years.
And we didn't start coming down here till, I don't know.
The first year we stayed in a motel.
Here?
Yeah.
If I sleep with the cat.
We had the story that you slept in the car and you woke up and saw a big buck in the yard. You recall that at all?
No.
And that kind of sealed the deal on the farm. Might have been in a second trip.
I think that was an Uncle Al part of it, yes.
So
That could be.
when you first started coming hunting up here, you stayed up at the farmhouse.
Yes.
And you partied so late, Ma kicked you out and said you got to come down here to the deer shack.
That's about what happened.
Well, we'd play club stay. And one,
Oh, in between
And-
also.
yeah, and one game went on till 1 o'clock, and if you knew Mike, he'd laugh, and he had the heartiest laugh, and it would be real loud, and he every time we'd go set, he'd just have a kick out of getting a set. We had so many sets, it was ridiculous how much.
We was loud.
And
in the
Ines
kitchen.
was trying to sleep. She'd come out and holler at us.
It's 6
Well,
kids.
we gotta wait till the game's over. And I get it over with already. We couldn't get the game. We were all in the hole so far that you had to hit to 21, and we were all in the hole. We were playing club stay.
And probably for big bucks like pennies.
Or nickel, maybe.
I doubt it was that much.
So, you know, as a kid growing up too, it was like we didn't want to go to school on Friday because there was so much excitement starting to happen, and we couldn't wait for our uncles to start pouring in from Jim Falls, Wisconsin, from back by Milwaukee, from Rochester, Minnesota, from different areas, and you have all these like streams flowing towards one area, and it was very exciting for us. Well, for me, I was maybe an odd person, but didn't want to go to school, even to the point where sometimes we were able to get out of school somehow and start prepping early. And the preparation was half the fun, because this place, for most of its life, I mean, it was used one weekend a year. And so it was pretty dusty and dirty, and it needed some cleanup. So the first one that always got here was Rick. I don't know if he's ever been beaten by anybody, but he'd show up before. And it was just because he lived closer too, and I think he got off work earlier. But he'd brag about that. And the first thing is get the fire going, start warming up water to clean. And Rick would always come with a little jar of bleach he'd get from Beth, you know, and he would never bring a bleach bottle. It's always a little jar with a piece of masking tape that says bleach on it. So don't drink anything with masking tape on it, even if you can't read the writing. But there was a lot of mice here too. I mean, it was pretty rodent invaded. So he'd get the water warmed up, he'd dump the little jar of bleach in the bucket, and he'd start mopping. He'd mop the mattresses, the beds, the tables. The mop would be going over top of the chairs. He'd mop the top of the wood stove. Every surface would be getting mopped. It was just, we would just laugh at it, but it really would smell better because it would get rid of the rodent odors. But and to this day, it's the same thing. I mean, he still brings a little jar that says bleach on it. It's so funny. I did get him a new mop bucket. He was really surprised. It was so worn out you could hardly. You know, he'd brag when he'd get a new mop head, but I actually got him a new mop bucket, and it works pretty nice now. But that was always a big deal. Just start to get it cleaned up, and then once you got, you know, the basic stuff swept up and mopped up, then you heated up water for dishes, and you started cleaning the dishes, because the mice would get into the things that would be the bottom plates were probably okay, but the top plate always had a pretty good coating of mouse poop on there, and we'd save that one for someone we didn't like. But we'd wash all them dishes and put them all out to dry, and then clean the cupboards and put them back in the cupboards. And split firewood if we had to, procure firewood. Just there's a lot of general cleanup. And you could do, it was nice to have help, of course, but you could do several hours of work, and then you'd work yourself right into a good thirst, and then it was be getting close to happy hour. And if there wasn't nobody to share happy hour with, you'd have to drink alone down here. Of course, Rick would about that time mix up a Manhattan. He specialized in that. He was a professional Manhattan bartender. And he'd have his cherries and whatever, and I don't even know how to make them myself, but boy, they're good. They're really good. And you can't have too many of them, though, because then you got to make sure the cleaning's done, because you won't want to feel like cleaning after you've had one or two of them things.
Oh, wow.
But we were so poor that I can remember well, Bob was older than me, but he
still is?
He was when he was in 16, that World War II was on, and he volunteered like he was 18, and he went away in the Navy.
But he was actually only 16?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I was the oldest boy then, and the girls were older than us. And I can remember Mother saying, "We have nothing for supper. Can you go out and get some pheasants?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll get them some." So I'd get the 410 out, and Dad would holler, "And don't waste no shells!" You had to make every shell count,
And there was a lot of pheasants in Iowa.
Oh.
And a lot of rabbits too.
Yeah.
And I would go out and shoot them and bring them back, and she'd clean them right away and make supper with them. I remember.
Otherwise, he'd go out and shoot a chicken with the 22 and get right through the head, and then Ma scalded and butchered. We had chicken.
She called me Dead-Eye Dick because
That's a fast story.
I would shoot squirrels and everything, and the squirrel was smart. He'd hide on the branch and he'd peek over just the tip of his head, and I could take the 22 and get him right between the eyes, and then there's no waste of the meat. And all the other boys would bring him in, they'd shoot him in the shoulder.
Wow, we used
And-
shotgun. We wanted to make sure we get them.
And there was no meat left when she got done cleaning because they ruined all the meat.
But what about teaching your brothers with a varmint called a skunk? Because you were known to play tricks, and I heard about something with a skunk.
Oh, well, that we had to walk to school. It was 2 miles to school. And in those days, there was no school bus. And it was uphill all the way. And then coming home, the wind would be always out of the north. We had to face the wind going in the north.
Uphill again.
Uphill again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we were just about home, and here a skunk run across the road in front of us. And I hollered at Art
And
Al,
Freddie. Yeah.
and I said, "Get him, get him!" They were a quarter apiece in those days. Dad would skin all of them, and we'd sell the fur. That's the way they make money during the winter. And the kids were running, got sticks, and I'd holler, "Get him, get him!" And they'd hit him a crack with that stick, and then every time they'd hit him, they'd piss all over him and stink. And that thing they broke its back, and it was dragging its hind legs and just crawling on. Hit him! And they'd give him another one. Get him! I don't know if we ever did get the damn thing, but I got home and they come in the house, and Mother just run us out, stinking to high heaven.
Ricky told me to do it.
Ricky did it. I got blamed for everything. So you know what she did to clean it?
Buried him in a manure pile.
She took it out to the manure pile. We had horses in those days, and the horse pile, we threw that manure out, and she dug under and buried all the clothes in that manure pile for about a week, and that's supposed to keep the stink out, but then we smelled like horses.
Yeah. I think you still got some left.
You know, Al would come fairly early too, and it was great because he brought the lessa, and he'd always have stuff. But he was the party guy, and boy, they liked the party, and sometimes there's a lot drink. There's a lot consumed.
It was towards the end of the night. Everyone was feeling very jolly and good.
And judgment kind of went out the window at times. That's why you had pots so high on In Between. You don't get $233 pots on In Between if you had good judgment.
And there was like $70 in the pot. Like it was the highest it had been that night.
But he would do the craziest things because he would be so tired. He'd kind of be falling asleep playing cards.
And this man was just stoic at the end of the table.
And then he would say, pot without looking.
But he would always do this thing where he would bet without looking. Bet.
And he split some crazy things. Like they had like a queen 10, and he bet the pot without looking, and he drew a jack.
He won that pot against all odds, against all probability.
And the place just roared. I thought the roof was going to be raised right up because we all were just hollering and hooting. It was so hilariously funny.
It was like the most legendary, magical moment I had seen in cards.
He allowed to be made fun of at times, and he carried a lot of weight that way. And man, he was such a big part of it, and we do miss him dearly. We do miss him. And boy, old Uncle Al, what fun times we had. And he hunted hard too.
We were born and raised down in Iowa, and there were no deer in Iowa. And I got married, and the
Just your wife? Yeah.
26th of November, and it happened to be during deer season. And I didn't know what a deer season was. And so my wife was from Bloomer up here, and so all the relatives come to Bloomer, and Mike Pelly was hunting down at Pittsville. I'll never forget that. And he had to come from Pittsville, where he was going to get a big buck, and stall that off and come to Bloomer for the wedding. And was he pissed? And anybody that gets married during deer season is crazy. So that's how we started out with all my other in-laws or outlaws, like your dad would always call them outlaws. Him and Beth he'd say, we're the outlaws, we're not the in-laws. But when we came in here, we were going to move that bed there, and he stood on that bed, and it went down. And that reminded me of what story I'm going to tell.
10% truth.
After we got married, we went on a honeymoon we went around the Upper Peninsula and stopped at my uncle Ligor and Clara and visited them, and then we come around. And the next week I went to work, and I went to work in Stanley, Wisconsin, and we rented an apartment. The new boss knew that I was still in school, and I didn't have time to get an apartment, so he found an apartment for us, and it was up at a two-story house. We got the bottom part and another couple upstairs, and we didn't have any furniture nothing. We moved into the house. The only thing that was a refrigerator and a stove. And so the first night,
No bed?
no bed, no nothing. So
No nothing. Okay.
so their grandpa was in World War
How
One.
does the dealer win? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
He was in World War One, and he had brought home an army cot. You know, one of them old canvas ones that folded up. He said, "Well, you can use that the first night, you know." And I guess there was a sofa there, and I was on the sofa, and Beth got the cot. And of course, old Simrod got a little amorous, and we went over by the cot there with her, and playing around, and I got carried away, and I thought, well, I'll crawl up on that cot, and kawoom, down it went. The whole cot just broke. The canvas shredded, and them wooden things canvas, and there we were laying on the floor. And what could you do? You just lay there and laugh.
What is this a secret?
So damn funny.
How many splinters did you have to pull out?
So it was.
Yeah, but that pulled out a small toothpick.
The glory of it is we didn't get arrested because for disturbing a peace. So everything turned out okay.
You know, for Len, his stability over the years has just always been an asset to the whole group, because he's always been there in a stable way, bringing food, doing this, doing that, serving others, cooking. But one of the early things that he did that was, well, no one had these things. He brought the first like ATV 3-wheeler here. And I was like, wow, what is that thing? And it had 3 wheels and you could drive it all over the place. My cousin got really hurt on it here. But then they brought the 4-wheeler, and he was the only one that had a 4-wheeler. Now we do have some on the place, but they'd get the assignment of having to go get deer and drag deer and haul people around, and but he was an innovator in that way too. He'd be bringing new things, new ideas like that, and things that certainly helped us. But Len, we tease him because I didn't know if he could really shoot a deer or not, because he'd see deer and take shots, and I didn't get him. It ran away, and there would be nothing there. And it was like, I was beginning to believe that he was just shooting in the air or something. But one year he made a believer out of me, because he shot three deer that year. And he didn't have any problem killing them, but those other years, I don't know what was going on. I think some of he finally sighted in his gun for him. But yeah, no, he could do the job. He was willing to work hard for the group and do drives and everything, because he would say, I can't hit him anyways, I might as well make a drive for you. So he was a good egg about that. And his sons are involved in it, and he's been very supportive of us in many, many ways.
Wisconsin, nature's wonderland. In all my dreams I see beautiful Wisconsin, glorious and grand. That's where I long to be. Silvery Lake and Rocky Dell hold me in their magic spell, and the pine-scented air is beyond compare. Beautiful Wisconsin, milk and honey land, your home, sweet home.
My favorite part of deer hunting is being at the old shack and listening to stories and playing cards. the camaraderie, it's the laughter, it's the people, it's the stories, it's the eating together. It's like when the women all go to the craft show together, and the women playing games, it's puzzling, it's lots of stuff. I remember at deer hunting, driving for the uncles and the hunters on Helly Mountain. Specifically, we were placed in the thick pine trees, and it was so difficult you could hardly walk, and we ended up crawling along the ground. But it was always worth it because we loved the uncles so much.
Camaraderie and the memories we share and make over preparing simple meals of side pork and lefse, who would think, or the cornmeal mush cushy for the next day. We cherish and appreciate these memories, and other people probably think we're crazy for doing stuff we do, but to us it makes complete sense. Probably for 25 plus years that we've been going down hunting. It's always about getting together with the family and suffering together, and from sleeping with mice running across you to dead possums in your sleeping bag to too much eating and drinking and never any deer to shoot.
We enjoy the memories that we had with them in years past, and we relive those. We relive the stories of the hunt. We relive the stories of the card games, of the food we ate, of the drinks we had, of the too many drinks we had. Whatever it is, these are the history that we created and that we kind of just bask in every time we come here. It's a good place to be each year. It really, really is.
Silvery Lake and Rocky Dell hold me in their magic spell, and the pine-scented air is beyond compare. Beautiful Wisconsin, milk and honey land, your home